I would say that the most uncertainty in the AFC is in the AFC West. What the hell is going to happen? You got three teams jockeying for position. You got the Chargers, you got the Raiders, and you've got the new-look Chiefs. So what is going to happen? Brennan Albert is here. I am Adrian Fedke. Probably the most interesting division, I'd say, definitely in the AFC.
Definitely in the AFC. I mean, aside from the NFC South, I would say this is the deepest division 1 through 4 in terms of saying I could see this team finishing dead last. I could see this team finishing first. I have the least confidence in this division of any division, again, besides the NFC South.
Yeah. All right, so we'll find out what's going to happen at the end of the year, but I think we both have the same team finishing atop of the standings. The Chargers of Los Angeles. Don't say San Diego anymore. I've made that mistake plenty of times last year. So the Chargers, everybody seems to be high on the Chargers. They were a team that got off to such a slow start last year before turning it on. Unfortunately, turned it on a little bit too late. But Chargers, man, I like them. How about you?
I'm glad we're doing the Los Angeles Chargers first, Adrian, because out of my head I was like, I hope we just get it out of the way because I know I'm going to say San Diego at some point. So I'm like glad we're taking our medicine, doing Los Angeles first. Yeah, this is the team I have the most confidence in. That said, this is every year, this is the all-IR team. Unfortunately, every single year, the injury bug lives in the Los Angeles or San Diego Chargers locker room. Hunter Henry down for the year, Jason Verrett down for the year. So they're already, I jokingly said, in mid-season form, unfortunately.
You know, we'll get to the secondary later, but Jason Verrett is like the best player that gets hurt every single year.
Is he the best player that never plays?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're saying.
So unfortunate, dude, because he's so damn good, and he and Casey Hayward would have been such a dynamic duo. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, they could have challenged Ramsey and Boye for the best duo in the league.
That's completely fair.
Yeah, it's not crazy talk. It isn't. That's how good they are. So, all right, let's get back to the offense. They had the fourth most yards, but they were 13th in scoring because they were 28th in red zone. So they didn't score in the red zone. They had kicking woes. Sung-Ju Woo, whatever the hell that guy's name is, couldn't make a kick. Now they've got Roberto Aguayo, the former freaking bust, second-round bust, right? Wasn't he second-round pick?
Yeah, he was really high.
Oh.
Mind you, the Bucs actually traded up to get him too, which is the more amazing thing about that, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, that's another tangent for another day. Okay, this offense. So 28th, though, in red zone. Hopefully they get a lift with Mike Williams. That's what they're hoping for because he's the red zone target they drafted.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at it, they have him kind of replacing the red zone threat. Unfortunately, Hunter Henry was really supposed to be the red zone threat there at tight end. He's done for the year. Melvin Gordon, he was a guy who, you look at his first couple years, his first year couldn't really find the end zone. Then all of a sudden caught fire. So I think he's a great running back. I agree with you, Adrian. Offense, this is a team that'll move the ball up and down the field. They just got to score points in the red zone this year. I certainly think they're going to, but that was a big reason that they weren't a team who, was clearly in the playoffs or a high ended up seed because they just couldn't get the ball in the end zone.
Yeah, for real. And Melvin Gordon, he's solid. Only averaged 3.8 yards per carry last year. Did the Chargers? Was it the Chargers? I forget what the number was. If it was the Chargers that averaged 3.8 or Gordon, but Gordon obviously couldn't have been great if it was the team at 3.8. But the offensive line, they add was it Mike? One of the Pouncey's. It's Mike
Pouncey. Yep, that's center. Mm-hmm.
I get them confused. I'm sorry, but Mike Pouncey, the one from the Dolphins. So they add him. You got Forrest Lamp. You got Dan Feeney from last year. So the interior looks a little bit better. Maybe they can improve that rushing average.
Absolutely. And you talk about the injury bug. Those were guys who were hurt last year. Their two high-end picks last year were guards in Freeney and in Forrest Lamp. Got both of those guys hurt. Got, Mike Williams. Essentially, they went into the year without really playing the first 3 draft picks, majority of the year. Yeah. That really is going to kill your team, period. And then you add those 2 guys or the interior. That's not great. I don't love Russell Okuna as a left tackle, but you know what, Adrian? I love the inside of their line. So I'm okay with being Russell Okuna not being awesome because I'm able to say, hey, the inside of our line is very good.
I guess Okuna's just like a Band-Aid for a year or two. They're going to have to draft somebody. They had, oh my God, what's his name? I'm blanking. He was so bad. King Dunlap.
Yep.
King Dunlap. Ugh. Oh, Keenan Allen. It seems like he's finally getting the recognition he deserves. At
Well,
least
he gets the recognition, Adrian, because he actually played almost the entire year last
that's
year.
true. That's true. That's another guy, man. Jeez, this team just ravaged.
I don't know what it is, if it's just the medical doctors do such a poor job of evaluating these guys when they draft them, or what happens, but they just have injuries everywhere. But Keenan Allen, no doubt, he is an unbelievable receiver. He does all the dirty work. I was watching a preseason game, and he was burying linebackers on dive plays in the preseason. Most guys, receivers, they'll go in, they'll throw their hands up and just be like, okay, I'm here. Just let's not do this. He's just full on destroying people. I hate this guy because he played against my team forever. Reminded me so much of Hines Ward, the way how physical of a blocker he is inside. But people don't know that, and he's such a dynamic route runner too.
Oh, he's one of the best route runners in the league for sure. And it's crazy because if you play fantasy football, he's going first or second round for people.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't take him. It's that injury bug, man. I can't take him that high. I'm sorry, I can't. But I like him.
I'm with you. I mean, I take Mike Evans over him. I take A.J. Green over him. I take Michael Thomas over him because I think their talent is all pretty even.
Yeah.
But injury concerns. I mean, none of those guys had the same injury concerns as Keenan Allen.
Yeah. All right, let's get on the defensive side of the ball. So 6 in turnovers forced, but scored just 84 points on those turnovers. So you can see, again, like the offense just not really scoring the situational scoring there. I got a question for you. I wrote this down. All right, so I'm going to ask you who the better duo is, okay? You ready for this one? Is it Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram, or I wrote it down. Where is it? Or Sean Merriman and Sean Phillips?
Give me this duo. And the reason I say that is because I think I can use Joey Bosa more ways than I could have used Sean Merriman and Phillips there when they were in San Diego. I think the versatility is a little bit higher with this duo. But, man, you talk about 2 underrated duos in NFL history. Both of these duos are going to go down in that book.
I think Joey Bosa is better than Merriman, and Merriman was a beast.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, lights out.
So I have a friend of mine who his brother was a grad assistant at Maryland when Sean Merriman and Vernon Davis were on the same team.
Cool.
And he said watching those guys go one-on-one and pass blocking and everything, he said that was like the greatest show of athleticism that he's ever seen. And when those 2 guys were humming and they were all healthy, man, they were freaks at their position.
Yeah. So you got Joey Bosa, and, I've talked about with Derek Barnett heading into the season, can you add the second and third pass rushing move? Well, Joey Bosa has everything in the bag.
Right.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a great pass rush. This is definitely the best pass rush duo in their division, probably also in the NFL.
Yeah, they both reached double-digit sacks too, and Ingram is a guy that was a bust for the first couple years of his career. So good for him, late bloomer, and they've been benefiting greatly. They struggled against the run last year. That's something that I remember very, very much because the Eagles ran all over them, and they struggled in games where Denzel Perryman didn't play. So it was like they averaged it was like 141 rushing yards allowed when he didn't play. It was like 107 when he did. Not that Denzel Perryman is the greatest thing in the world, but after him, there's not much talent at linebacker.
Yeah, that's fair. And Denzel Perryman is an undersized linebacker, too. A guy coming out of Miami was not exactly the biggest thumper in the world. He'll stick his nose in there and get dirty, don't get me wrong. But he's not exactly a hulking dude. Now, the one thing I will say is I think this defense this year has fully transformed to what Gus Bradley wants. I think this defense has finally hit a full roster of what Gus Bradley's been looking for. I think this defense, Adrian, this year is going to be a top 3 NFL defense.
I love this defense. I really do. And it really is a shame that Verrett's gone, man, because you would have had 2 shutdown corners with 2 elite pass rushers. That is a just deadly combination. They have that in Jacksonville. They could have had it in Los Angeles.
Yeah, there you go.
Did it. Almost did it. Okay, so we talked Jason Verrett, how underrated he is. Let's talk about Casey Hayward now, how underrated he is too.
I mean, how often do we talk about someone being underrated when he's a back-to-back Pro Bowler at his position? Like if I tell you, hey, I got a team with a back-to-back Pro Bowler, you're going to say, okay, this guy's pretty freaking good. But most people don't know who Casey Hayward is. Now, he is perfect for the field side corner in this Gus Bradley type of defense. So he is really going to flourish now moving forward. Opposite corner side, as you talked about, Jason Verrett, a guy who I think has torn both his ACLs now once each, and I think one of them twice now, if I remember correctly. Not great when you want to hear from a smaller corner.
I think he tore his Achilles too one year.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunately you got to start to wonder, hey, is your days of being a true starting corner behind you? But they brought in my boy Adrian, our guy that we banged the table for in our film study, and we said this guy is going to be a stud. This guy is underrated. People need to take him seriously. Desmond King, and he looked every bit of the part.
Yes, he did. Yes, dude, we kind of nailed last year's draft, if you remember.
Yeah,
we pretty much nailed it. We did.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, we're gonna nail this one too.
This was my guy. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, every year you're gonna have your guys that you go out on a limb on, and you swing and you hit, and you swing and you miss. This is the guy that I went the furthest out on the limb, and I'm really proud of. I'm gonna have to think about who I missed most on, because I'm sure there is one. I'm just kind of choosing to forget, probably.
I know who I missed on. Marlon Mack.
Yeah, Marlon Mack was one.
Because of the situation there, but yeah, but still, it's like there were some other running backs that made an impact. I was right on Kareem Hunt. Like, that was a sleeper of mine. That was a sleeper of everybody's, though, really. Anyway, let's keep it on focus on the teams, because we're going to lose viewers now. Nobody cares about our draft thoughts. And
you're right.
Chargers. Okay. Let me ask you this. Are they the team in the AFC that can beat New England? Like, do they have the greatest odds of surpassing them? Like, in a game, can they beat them?
I think so, because they can get after him before, and that's what I think you have to do. I mean, their two edge guys can get after him on their own. There's not many edge duos in the NFL that each have double-digit sacks. Usually, you have one guy with like 13, one guy maybe with 8. This is one of the few teams who has double-digit sack artists there. And honestly, bringing in Derwin James, he's perfect for playing against Gronk and Kelsey. He's exactly what you want there, and he's a perfect fit in that Cam Chancellor role of Gus Bradley's defense. So, yeah, Adrian, I think this is the team. If you ask me anyone on paper, who would I put up against the Patriots in the AFC? I'm putting the San Diego. Darn it, so close to getting through it.
Yeah, you did say it. I didn't even pick up on it. I didn't even
close.
I didn't do it. I almost did it, though. Okay, so the reason why I think they match up the best, I mean, you look at the other candidates. Pittsburgh, Tom Brady always picks them apart. Defense isn't good enough. Is Blake Bortles good enough? No. I know they got close in the AFC Championship. I get it. All right, whatever. But in Sandy, I did it.
Got him. We're even.
I said Sandy, so I said half of it. I said
whatever. Go on. Whatever.
I didn't get the ego out. I just said Sandy. See, it's Sandy outside. I'm down the shore. Yeah, so they have a combination where they can get after the quarterback, but they also have a quarterback that can match Tom Brady. Not as good as Tom Brady, but 37-year-old Phillip Rivers can still fling it. And, in some ways, I don't think people respect him enough. But
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next team, because I think we spent a lot of time on the Chargers. I got Kansas City as my second team written down. Would you like to talk about them next, or the Raiders?
Let's go KC here. So KC, big transition here. They went from conservative to explosive on the offense.
Yeah. You could not have, chosen two different quarterbacks. Polar opposites.
No doubt about it. I mean, you went from Charlie Checkdown to a guy who's cool throwing the ball down the field, potentially getting it picked, and just walking back to the sidelines and saying, "That's all right, I'm going to get him next time," and Pat Mahomes. I mean, honestly, if you even heard what Andy Reid's press conference was a while ago, he said you need a little intestinal fortitude in the quarterback position. It's kind of like a subtle way to call out your past quarterback and then say, "I love Pat because he's not afraid to throw the interception and throw the deep ball." Kansas City, this could be the team that you say, "Wow," or "What were you doing?" very quickly on play-to-play.
Yeah. And with them, man, I mean, you look at Mahomes. I know Alex Smith did improve.
He did, right. Mm-hmm.
I get that. He actually had a pretty decent season last year. But you look at Pat Mahomes now, you're going to get more depth on your routes. You're getting more shotgun, obviously more shots down the field. This is the perfect match for he and Tyreek Hill. This is a match made in heaven. I mean, you cannot overthrow Tyreek Hill if you're Patrick Mahomes. That's the duo I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see Patrick Mahomes uncork like an 80-yard bomb to Hill.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, Sammy Watkins, he can still run straight. And he's probably going to get hurt running straight, but he can run straight. And then you have Travis Kelce, who arguably is the best tight end in the NFL. And then not to mention, we have the leading rusher in the NFL who was a rookie last year. Yeah. So as far as a skill position standpoint, Kansas City's got a lot of weapons there. And I still think Andy Reid is arguably the best coach for a young quarterback in the NFL. So there should be no reasons that we shouldn't see this be a very explosive offense.
This is how it's always been for Andy. Andy loves those big arms. He like McNabb, big arm. Vic had a big arm when Vic had those couple years. So you had Vic and Deshaun Jackson. That's like kind of what I'm thinking about with Mahomes and Hill here. So there you go. The Sammy Watkins thing, I'm not a Sammy Watkins guy, but I think for this situation, I think it works.
I agree.
Yeah,
100%.
He's a number 2. He's not a number 1.
Yep.
So I think that makes a big difference. You talked about Kareem Hunt, led the NFL in rushing as a rookie, also added 53 receptions for 455 yards, so was doing it in the passing game as well, but did slow down near the end of the year. So we'll see if he can kind of pick it up again in year 2.
I'm not too worried about him slowing down at the end of the year. I mean, it's just a longer season in college. It's just a more physical season than it is in college. So that's just a normal wear and tear, honestly. I'm not too worried about it. I don't think their offensive line is exactly great, but at the same time, if you have the leading rusher behind you, everything else on the offense is going to be able to go a lot smoother moving forward.
Yeah. So the offense, it's going to be explosive. There's big plays galore. Now let's get to the defense. This defense was pretty damn good, like only 2 to 3 years ago, but now it's not as good. Yeah. So stats. No, never mind. These are not stats. Yes, they are. 29th against the run, 25th against the pass. No more Derek Johnson. They have no more Tamba Hali, no more Marcus Peters. What do you make of this, D?
I mean, this is a rebuild. This is one of those trade-offs. When you trade up to get a quarterback, you're going to sacrifice everywhere else. Mm-hmm. And that's what they did. They sacrificed the draft picks to go up and get Pat Mahomes, and to be determined if this was the right move or not. But defensively, not a lot there. I did love the fact that they were able to get Kendall Fuller, who maybe isn't an elite corner, but for Kansas City, he's a starter. So you got a starter and a third-round pick for Alex Smith. That's a great move there for what Kansas City did earlier in the offseason. And then the rest of the defense, I don't know, D Ford's been nothing but a bust in my opinion. Eric Berry reminds me so much of those years with the Colts when they had Bob Sanders, where he just did so much for that defense. And when he was out, the defense just looked horrible. And I think, unfortunately, that's what the Kansas City defense is based up on is can Eric Berry make plays in the back half?
Yeah. They do have a beast in Chris Jones. I think he's phenomenal.
I agree with that, yep.
Phenomenal. Very athletic, very versatile. He could rush from actually all spots of the defensive line. How many sacks did he had? Like 6 or 7 sacks, too. So Chris Jones, I think, is very good. I'm with you on D Ford. Justin Houston, can he stay healthy? I mean, I think last year was the first time he stayed healthy since 2014 or 13 or something. Yeah. So it's been a long time for him. They added some guys at linebacker, but they're not sexy names. It's Reggie Ragland and Anthony Hitchens, so it's like, okay, whatever. I'm with you on Kendall Fuller, though. I like Kendall Fuller.
And I like Reggie Ragland a little more than most people, especially for the fact that they made a trade for him from the Bills for a pretty late-round pick, and he became a starter for them. I like him, but I wouldn't say he's a Pro Bowl-level player. I mean, really, besides Chris Jones and then obviously Eric Berry, there's no real defensive Pro Bowl-level talent on this defense. But if your offense is going to be able to be a top 4, top 5 scoring, and as long as you take the ball away. I mean, look, the Saints won the Super Bowl by taking the ball away, not by being a good defense, but just taking the ball away. I don't think that the Kansas City Chiefs can win a Super Bowl. Let's not get twisted. But this could be certainly a team that could win double-digit games this year. Yeah,
they just surprise every year. It's kind of weird to say. They did it last year too. I mean, they started 6-0 and then they got cold, obviously. But Andy Reid always seems to get the most out of his team. What are you thinking for Kansas City?
I'm going to go 9 wins, 9-7, I think is a conservative number there. I could see them going double digits. I just have a hard time thinking, though, that this defense is going to be able to keep them in a lot of games, especially when you have 2 games against the Raiders, 2 games against the Chargers. Those are pretty darn good offenses. That's a lot to ask your offense to consistently outscore teams. So I'm going to go 9-7 here for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay, I like that. I got 9-7 as well. It's kind of the same thinking as you. It's kind of like a conservative prediction. I think they make the playoffs, not because they're good, but because it goes back to the AFC stinking again.
That's fair. I mean, you could certainly say you could get 3 teams out of this division.
Yeah.
I don't think that's crazy. I could see them. I think they're going to be in the hunt right there with Tennessee, Houston. I think that's going to be that kind of mix right there.
Yeah, so for me, it's down to like Kansas City and Oakland for that last wild card spot. But I don't have we'll get to Oakland now, I guess. All right, so I won't say what the record is yet. So John Gruden has joked that he wants to bring football back to 1998, which I think is funny. He hasn't been coaching how long? Over a decade.
Yeah.
Now, we've seen this before, like situations where a guy will come back like a Joe Gibbs and hasn't really worked out. But this, I don't know. I got a little different feeling here. Well, his brother's still in the NFL. He's been doing it the Monday Night Football. Sean McVay is a protege of his. I don't think he's lost touch of where the game is right now. I think John Gruden still has it.
Honestly, Adrian, it depends on the day you ask me. Because some days I agree with you. Some days I'm thinking, look, this guy's been involved in football. Even since he retired, he's the highest paid person at ESPN. He's been super involved with everything with the quarterback academy. It's not like he's just living in a trailer in Montana. He's been super involved. Yeah. But the flip side I also could say of this is, even when he did win a Super Bowl, it was mostly with Tony Dungy's players. Like I could easily knock a lot of the things that he gets accomplished for. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I think this is one of those situations where it's like, you break up with a girlfriend and then all of a sudden, like 3 months down the road, and you're like, you know what? She was pretty great. It's like that absence makes the heart grow fonder type of thing. So I don't know. I just worry a little bit about this. I will say the other thing, when I was living in Vegas, you ask anyone that worked for the Raiders organization, they'll tell you straight up, a large reason they made that Gruden move was to sell tickets. So it definitely is a huge marketing reason. I do think they needed to move away from their past coaching staff and into this coaching staff is a thumbs up. But let's not anoint him as being this elite NFL coach right away before he even plays a full season.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's elite. He's got to get back to that for me because it's been so long since he's gotten back into it. But I will say this. I think he's got a quarterback that's similar to Rich Gannon in the way that he plays, like that dink and dunk type of philosophy, kind of get down the field. I don't think Derek Carr is as talented as Rich Gannon, but I think he's got something there to work with. Derek Carr.
Yeah, I like Derek Carr. I mean, I certainly think he's probably in that top 10 range, maybe a little bit outside of it.
Yeah, actually, let me ask you. Sorry to cut you off there, but because I know you were huge on Derek Carr heading into last season. Are you still kind of as high on him?
Yeah, I mean, man, what a massive drop-off last year was for Derek Carr.
Because I was high on him too.
Yeah, went from MVP candidate to big drop. I mean, honestly, I might say he had the biggest drop-off of any player from 16 to the 17 season as we head into 18. I like Derek Carr. I still think his skill set's very much there. I mean, you lose Crabtree, who was his red zone threat. That was the guy who was the vulture in the red zone for them. You bring in Jordy Nelson, Martavis Bryant. So there's a lot of options there, a lot of big body receivers there in Oakland. I don't see any reason this guy shouldn't be throwing 30-plus touchdowns this season.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. Okay, so 2016, he had 28 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Last year, dipped 22 and 13. Passer rating went down to 86.4. What did you see from him? What was going on?
Honestly, it just looked like he was more thinking. When I looked at 16, it was just very quick, very fluid, very motion. 17 just seemed a little more thinking. There was a little bit of a drop-off, too, in the offensive line, which obviously doesn't help you a lot, but just seemed a little more thinking. Crabtree was hurt, too, for a little bit of that season, if I remember correctly, last year. So there were a lot more inconsistencies around him They just started to make him think a little bit more. I'm not really worried, though, if I'm an Oakland Raiders fan. I still think you have a top 10 quarterback and your quarterback for the future.
Yeah.
But certainly last year was a little bit of a disappointment.
And Amari Cooper was a little bit of a disappointment, too, with the drops, dropping the ball.
Yeah, I think he led the league in drops, too, if I remember correctly, which is certainly not a stat you want to have on your record. But then again, T.O. has the most drops in NFL history, and he's in the Hall of Fame.
There you go. There you go. So, yeah, we kind of briefly talked about it earlier. You talked about the additions of Jordy Nelson and Martavis Bryant. I guess they're solid pickups. I mean, I don't know if Nelson has anything left in the tank, but Bryant, to get him for, what was it, like a third or fourth it was?
Yeah.
I don't think that was terrible. I'd say this. I really like the interior of their offensive line. That's where they make their money. Unfortunately, Marshawn Lynch is like in his 30s now. I don't know how longer he's got left, but you look at Rodney Hudson, Game Jackson, and Kelechi Osemele, that's got to be the best interior in the NFL.
I agree with that. That's really, really good interior. And then you have Donald Penn, who's aging, and they made their first-round draft pick of Colton Miller. Was a guy that I didn't like that pick at all.
Yeah, that was
but at the same time,
like 10th, right? It was like first round.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you look at it, it's like, man, this wasn't a great tackle class. And, if you really said, look, we really need to improve our tackles and we're okay with taking them now because we're worried about trading back and someone taking him, I'm okay with that. It's also important to remember here, Mike McGlinchey went right before them. I think if Mike McGlinchey was still on the board, Oakland probably would have taken him, or Oakland maybe more confident trading back. But because they saw the other tackle get drafted right before him, they say, you know what, let's not mess around. Let's get Colton Miller. Even if we're overdrafting him, you can't overdraft someone who's going to protect your quarterback. So I don't love Colton Miller, but I also can understand why they took him there.
Was it better to go after Colton Miller, or should they have done something where they drafted a pair of tackles and hope one pair pan out, like say draft one in the third and fourth round or something?
This is tough because to me, I think if we're talking about receivers, get multiple. If we're talking about running backs, get multiple. Defensive backs, get multiple. Offensive linemen, give me the best one because I only can put one left tackle on the field at a time. So I'd rather the best possible guy out there. And to be fair, Colton Miller's upside is huge. He's got a huge frame. He's very, very athletic, but he's very stiff, which is not something you want to hear in a left tackle position. But, for what Oakland needs, they're ready to win right now. They're ready to score points right now. So I'm okay with them making that move.
Yeah, the reason why I asked, I know it wasn't a good tackle class. I felt like a lot of the guys were just kind of clustered together. So that's, I'm kind of asking that. Let's move on the defense. There's not much on the defensive side of the ball, but they have Khalil Mack still, even though they're thinking about trading him, I guess. So what the hell? Like, are they going to trade him? What's going on there?
Well, I mean, the rumors are that first the Oakland Raiders don't have the money to re-sign him.
But because they gave it all to Gruden.
Because they gave it all to Gruden. That's like the rumors, right? But, like, if that's true – okay, then you got to trade them. The rumors you're hearing is they're wanting multiple first-round picks. So if you're the Green Bay Packers, that makes a ton of sense to make that move right away. Yeah. But I wouldn't trade them unless you are 100% sure, hey, we don't have the money, we financially cannot do this. Then trade him and get the picks and keep it pushing. Because even with Khalil Mack, that defense is not good. And the defense will be horrible without him, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But even if they have him, it's not a good defense.
No, it's not. It's not. I'm trying to even think of players on the defense. Like, there's just not much there. It's not good.
It's not. I mean, you got to keep in mind here, they just cut Obi Melifonwu. He was their second-round pick not too long ago.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
When you're dropping guys like that, that's not great. And then, obviously, you look at guys like Mario Edwards on the interior. He's been really unhealthy. I mean, it's been hard to keep him hurt or keep him on the field. Talk about hard to keep on the field. Arden Key, who knows what's going to happen with him? Maurice Hurst was a guy with a first-round NFL grade, got him in the fifth round because of a heart condition. There's a lot of questions there for the defense.
Yeah. They do have Carl Joseph. I like him, the safety, so I will give him that. I'm curious to see if Garyon Conley pans out in his second year.
Yeah.
But other than that, man, there's not much there. Who's pressuring the quarterback besides Khalil Mack?
Yeah, Bruce Irvin. I mean, that's probably your next best rush guy in that conversation there. who's better than most, but he's not a guy that I would, completely change my game plan.
Yeah, he's like a linebacker. I mean, you're not asking him to rush,
He's going to have to. I mean, he was the rush guy. To be fair, when the Seahawks drafted him, he was drafted as that rush guy. So he has the ability to do it. But like I said, he's not someone I have to scheme around.
Yeah. Yeah, this is not a good defense. I have 8-8 because it's a bad defense.
I have him at 7-9. Now it's funny you said 8-8 because that's what Vegas's odds are for the Raiders is 8 wins. I gave him 7-9 this year.
Okay. All right. So it's down to Kansas City and Oakland for me. Actually, Kansas City, Oakland, and Tennessee for that last wild card spot. And I've got Kansas City at 9-7 making it.
I can see that. Yeah, I don't have any problems with that. I think that's the same kind of mix I would have of team potentially in that conversation for who could make it. I don't think Baltimore, I don't think Cincinnati are going to be in that mix either. I think Steelers run away with the division. Patriots run away with the division. So then you have, again, Houston, Tennessee, Kansas City, Oakland, and there's those 4 teams fighting for the final 2.
The thing to watch is going to be the home field advantage because, like you just mentioned, man, like the AFC North isn't good and the AFC East isn't good. And the Steelers and the Patriots may get the top 2 seeds just based on who they're playing in the division because you're going to get those easy wins. Because I was just going through the Chargers schedule. I had trouble getting to 11 wins, whereas like the Patriots, I could have given them more wins if I wanted to. Pittsburgh, I could have given them more wins if I wanted to, but I wasn't like as crazy about them as I was in years past. Chargers, I love, but it's a pretty tough slate.
It is. I mean, and then there's the final team that we haven't talked about, the Broncos. But for the Chargers to really get 11 wins, they have to win 4 games in the division, which essentially says you have to sweep Denver. You have to at least split with Oakland and Kansas City. I think that's possible.
That's what I do have. That's what I have written down. So,
that's a minimum. You can't if you go 3-3, you're probably not getting 10 wins in the division. You have to go at least 4 wins in your division there.
Yeah, so if the Chargers get to the AFC Championship game, they're probably going to have to play a divisional game on the road. So I have 11 wins. I also have 11 wins for Pittsburgh and Jacksonville, but I'd be worried about the Chargers getting that home field. Not that they need it. They only 20,000 people go to that damn arena anyway.
No kidding.
StubHub Arena or Center, whatever the hell it's called. What a joke, by the way. How did we not get to that when we talked about the Chargers?
It's such a shame. I mean, to be fair, anyone who's ever been to Qualcomm in San Diego, like I have, place is a dump. Like I will tell you that straight up. Place is a dump. They absolutely need a new football field. So I understand why they made that move. But, man, the Los Angeles move, I'm still scratching my head. I feel like that's just like a move that everyone was like, well, we can move to L.A. I don't think that's going to be the right move for them.
It's not. And I did like a behind enemy lines with a Chargers fan last year, and I actually respect the guy greatly because he still like follows the team. He I think he got season tickets for the season, and like he would talk to me like throughout the season saying, yeah, well this week there's 90% Chiefs fans. Like the place would just get packed with the opposing team's fan bases.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing too for San Diego is, let's say for example the Rams are the 2 seed in the NFC. And San Diego is the the Chargers are the 4 seed. Even in their own city, they're going to get dwarfed. And I know it sounds small, but it's going to be like, oh, well, the Rams are really good. They have more wins than the Chargers, so they must get more media attention. That's just not a good look there.
That'll be interesting. Who wins more games, the Chargers or the Rams?
The Rams, because the division's easier, in my opinion. I think that's a big reason.
Okay, so you like the Rams. I have a weird feeling about the Rams, like a dream team kind of feeling. Like maybe they don't play as well as we think. I'm thinking like 9-7. They win the division because it stinks, but I don't know how good the Rams are really going to be.
That's fair.
We'll get to that. That's a teaser, I guess. All right, Denver. We're not going to spend a lot of time with Denver. After talking about the other 3 teams, I have no desire to talk about Denver. They got Case Keenum.
Right. I mean, here's the funky thing. So the Vegas odds, okay? Vegas had the Chargers winning 9 games. Then Vegas had Oakland and Kansas City winning 8. and then they had the Broncos winning 7.5. I would take that under all day long. I'm surprised they gave him that many. I mean, I'm with you.
Wow.
Case Keenum, okay, hey, he had a great year last year. Let's call it for what it is. It was a fantastic year. Am I confident he's going to be able to produce that again? No. And it's a good receiving core, though. I do like the receivers there. Yeah. Running backs, Royce Freeman is an unknown camaraderie. Offensive line is very poor. I mean, on the offense, there's not a lot that I get really excited about.
I just took Royce Freeman in the 3rd round of my fantasy draft last night. I don't know if I like that.
But. I don't know. I mean, look, I think he's going to be one of those guys where his numbers are going to be based on carries, not based on his actual skill. He's going to need to get fed the ball a lot because I don't think he's going to be a guy who's going to be able to average 5, 6, 7 yards a carry. He's probably going to average 3.5 this year because the offensive line isn't great.
Yeah. Not that anyone cares about my fantasy team, but I went wide out first 2 rounds with Julio Jones and Michael Thomas. And then I went with, like, a bunch of running backs and hopefully just a couple pan out. So I went with, like, Kenyon Drake, Rashad Penny, Ronald Jones. So I went with, like, a bunch of different guys hoping, like, 2 pan out. But Freeman was my 3rd round pick for some reason. Because
he has had a really good preseason. To give him credit, I would say of all the rookie backs, he's looked the best. I will give him that. But
it's preseason, though.
Exactly right. Like, until I'm able to see it multiple games in the regular season, I personally have a hard time, saying that. Now, the flip side, people could tell you, oh, well, Kareem Hunt had a great preseason that carried over. That's fair. I'm just really conservative when it comes to rookies personally. I have a hard time anointing them until I see it in a regular season game.
Yeah, I'm with you, dude. And, yeah, the preseason can be, like, just such a tease for so many different reasons.
Yeah.
And that's another conversation, though. Okay. I mean, what's there to talk about with this team? What do you want to talk about with the Broncos?
It's all about the defense. I mean, that's what it's been. It's all about the edge rushers there. When they had Von Miller and then they had DeMarcus Ware, and now you bring in Bradley Chubb. I think the coolest story I heard was the Broncos. The rumor were the Broncos were the Browns were on the clock and the Broncos were on their phone getting ready to potentially make a trade. And as soon as they heard that Cleveland drafted Denzel Ward, they hung up the phone and said, "Go draft Bradley Chubb." So I thought that was awesome for them. I mean, everyone knew that if they could replicate those pass rushers, then they could. Then they're going to. They might be the best pass rushers in a year from now. I just can't say that they're a better pass rushing duo than Ingram and Bosa because I haven't seen Bradley Chubb do it in a meaningful snap yet.
But, man, that's how they won a Super Bowl. Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware. And now you're looking at potentially doing it again with Miller and Chubb. Let me see how old Von Miller is now. Is he up there? Is he getting the 30? I'm going to say he's like 28, 29.
Yeah, I think he's a young, just shy of 30.
29.
29.
Well,
then the other big
time, so by the time Chubb becomes like elite, he's going to be 32, 33.
Yeah, I mean that's same general idea that happened with DeMarcus Ware.
That's true. Yeah, Ware was older. Yeah, I'll have to look at that. How old he was when they won that Super Bowl.
The other thing with Denver is, they moved on from Aqib Talib. So they're moved on from a corner who certainly was getting a little older, wasn't as explosve, but dude was still a playmaker and physical and feisty and a clear emotional leader there from that defense. So they move on for him. They still have Roby. Roby's going to go from the nickel to playing full-time opposite corner of Cliff Harris there. So still a pretty good corner duo up there. Brandon Marshall still in the middle. I like Derek Wolfe a lot on the defensive end. Probably a guy who doesn't get enough credit. Defense is certainly very good, but I just worry they're going to be on the field too much. I have the Broncos this year finishing at 6-10.
Okay, I got 7-9. By the way, you said you do this all the time. I think it's because you said you had a former player named Cliff, right?
Yep, it's Chris Harris, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Dude, you do it. It's worse than the chart. It's worse than San Diego. You do it.
You're 100% right.
I think it's funny.
You're 100% right.
Dude, it was funny because last year you do it a couple times, and the commenters would roast you. I'm like, dude, give him a break.
At this point, I'm probably never gonna change. I'm just gonna be like, nope, it's Cliff Harris. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
When we talked about, the Miami pass rusher, is his name Charles Harris too?
Charles Harris, yeah.
God, you said Cliff Harris for him too.
One of these days, I'll figure out who everyone is. I swear.
Oh, but hey, you can't knock Brendan because he's the smartest dude in the room. So he won't tell you that because he's too humble.
Every day, I'm trying to learn something new.
All right, so okay, this is the point where we get to underrated, hot seat, all that. There's a lot of underrated in this division. I mean, you could look at every team. I'd probably go Casey Hayward. Casey Hayward is like a top 10, top 15 corner. Nobody knows. So I guess that's my pick.
I like that. I mean, I could say several guys, especially on the Chargers, I could say that are underrated. Yeah. I think the Chargers have a ton of dudes like that. I'm going to go with Derek Wolfe. And I say that because, when you have typically, guys, if you have a Pro Bowl, all-pro level edge rusher, usually the guy either right in front of him or to inside of him is usually pretty darn good and does all the dirty work. And that's what Derek Wolfe is. He's 100% the dirty work guy there for the Broncos. He's never going to be a Pro Bowler, to be honest with you. At least I would be shocked if he ever is, because Von Miller takes all the stats, but he makes Von Miller's life a lot easier.
Yeah. Who's on the hot seat?
I mean, this is pretty obvious. It's going to be John Elway here. I mean, look, you're anointed as the fixer, the know-it-all, the guy who's going to be able to find out the quarterback situation. The quarterback he drafted in the first round, which, to be fair, I don't think was a bad deal. I really don't, because they didn't move up a whole bunch to get him, moved up a little. But so I don't have a problem with it. But he's third in the depth chart right now. That's not a good look for you. So, I think he has to be on the hot seat. And I think I saw this on Vegas odds. Vance Joseph, the head coach of the Denver Broncos, is currently the third highest odds to be fired this year. So those two guys are leaps and bounds the clear answers, in my opinion, Adrian.
I like the John Elway pick because I didn't really think about it. I was thinking like more players and coaches, and I was kind of going with Joseph too. John Elway, man, I think the problem there is he wants the immediate solution instead of kind of being a little patient and then waiting. I could have told you Paxton Lynch was going to be a bust. I mean, I don't know why he was ever highly regarded. I never understood it. I never saw it with him in college. I thought he was dumb as a rock. You have to have some football IQ if you're going to be in the NFL. He doesn't have any. He's dumb. He's stupid.
Yeah, he was a guy who's coming out of a system. He was a system quarterback from there. Yeah. And then the more reports you start to hear, I mean, usually when you go into like the draft time, the combine time, you hear all these people saying, oh, he's great work ethic. Oh, what a leader, blah, blah, blah. If you're not hearing that, I think that's more of a concern than people saying this guy's great, because you're used to hearing guys are great. And then you start hearing more things that Paxton Lynch is more concerned about playing Xbox than learning the playbook and all that. And it's just like, man, that's not a good look. Chad Kelly was a guy that they drafted. I think was Mr. Irrelevant. I think
he's already better than Paxton.
He's already the number 2 quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious, Adrian, not that I ever wish injury on any player, but if for some reason, Kelly comes in, does he eventually win the job, and does he become the quarterback of the future for the Broncos?
That's an interesting question. Yeah.
It was a little bit of an issue in college of the upstairs part.
Yeah. So the thing, like, I feel like a lot of people think Josh Allen.
I think we got Adrian Blanken here.
Oh no, my connection is unstable. I just got a message. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Well, let's kind of move over, Adrian, to our fantasy guys. So who's your fantasy person to look out for in the division?
Yeah. Who is that going to be? Let's see. I'm going to throw a sleeper instead. I'm going to say Mike Williams. And the reason why I say Mike Williams is like we talked about the red zone deficiencies, and Hunter Henry is hurt. He was going to be a big red zone target. So those targets that were going to go to Hunter Henry are now going to go to Mike Williams. I think Mike Williams can have a sneaky good year, and I picked him up last night in my fantasy team.
Where'd you get him? You got him pretty late, didn't you?
I got him late. I went back-to-back with John Ross and Mike Williams, hoping one would pan out.
I think those both make a ton of sense there because you get them late.
Yeah.
Usually you don't find a team that will have 3 receivers drafted. That's going to happen with the Chargers. You're going to get 3 receivers drafted there in fantasy leagues. I think that's a good one, Adrian, especially because how late you can get him. His upside is huge. Look, they drafted him in the first round. They drafted him in the first round to use him a lot. So I totally buy how you see him as a sleeper. I'm going to go Cortland Sutton from the Broncos here.
Okay.
I think Emmanuel Sanders' best days are behind him. I think we're going to see another big drop-off in Sanders' year. I think Sanders is just going to be a slot receiver moving forward. He's never going to be a number 2 again. So I think Sanders is going to drop, and I think Cortland Sutton all of a sudden quickly becomes the opposite receiver. Or the other one, this is a super dark horse. So this is like if you're in like a 14-team league, Jake Butt, tight end for the Broncos. He was a guy who was going to be a high draft pick coming out of Michigan. I think he broke his hip in his bowl game or had some type of hip injury, missed all of last season. He's already won the starting tight end job in Denver. He's a super dark horse. But if you're looking for a tight end, and typically the tight ends are the positions that you can find those late round value, Jake Butt could be that guy.
All right. So I just looked it up. Sanders already 31. Demaryius Thomas is 30. So they're on the wrong side of 30, those two.
Especially if you guys are in keeper leagues or dynasty leagues, you probably can get Cortland Sutton pretty late, and he's going to pay off in the long run.
Yep. All right. That's it. That's all we got. That's what we do, just the 3 questions, right? We don't do anything else?
That's it. So as a recap, I got the Chargers finishing first, Kansas City second, Oakland third, Broncos in a distant fourth.
Yep. Okay. I got the same thing. We both got the same thing. I guess we'll do a playoff show, and that's when we'll do – okay, we'll do that. All right, that's Brendan Albert. I'm Adrian Fedke. We're out of here. Hopefully the connection was okay and it looked good.
Appreciate it, guys.